Mr. Coyle, your liver enzymes came back high, twice as high as they should be. Frank sat up straighter in the chair. The paper gown crinkled under him, that thin, papery sound that somehow makes any bad news feel worse than it already is. He asked the only question that made sense to him in that moment. He hadn't touched a drink in 15 years, not one. He'd quit the exact day his father died of cirrhosis. Cold, no gradual cutting back. He'd never once looked back or been tempted, not at a wedding, not at a holiday, not once in 15 years. So how exactly could this possibly be a liver problem? His doctor slid the lab sheet across the desk anyway. The numbers didn't care about his 15 years of sobriety. They didn't care that he walked 2 miles most mornings, or that he thought of himself honestly as one of the healthy ones. Frank had come in that day for something else entirely. A routine physical, the kind he'd sat through a dozen times before without a single surprise. He'd already mentally moved on to his afternoon, a hardware run for a fence repair he'd been putting off, maybe lunch with his wife, if the line wasn't too long. He wasn't expecting to leave with a word like liver attached to his chart. Not that day, not any day really, given everything he thought he'd already done right. That's the exact moment I want you sitting in tonight, because most people picture liver disease as something that only happens to heavy drinkers. It's a comfortable belief. It puts the whole problem safely in someone else's life, someone with a very different relationship to alcohol than the person watching this. It's also wrong, and it's wrong in a way that quietly catches a lot of people exactly like Frank. I'm Dr. Walter Hale. Nearly 4 decades of practicing medicine, and the liver is one of the organs I've watched fool more careful, health-conscious people than almost any other. People who exercise, people who watch their diet in every way they know to watch it, people who would tell you, honestly, that they take good care of themselves. Tonight, 7 specific habits that can wear that organ down anyway. Most have nothing to do with alcohol at all. Here's the part almost nobody knows going in. Your liver has no pain nerves inside it the way your stomach or your joints do. It can be under real ongoing strain for years and never once send you a signal. By the time it does complain loudly, a meaningful amount of damage is often already sitting there waiting to be found. Think about how differently your body treats a sprained ankle. You know within seconds. You limp, you wince, you reach for ice without thinking about it. Your liver was never built that way. It can lose a real share of its function and still keep quietly doing its job in the background, uncomplaining, right up until it genuinely can't anymore. Doctors sometimes describe it as one of the most patient organs in the body, and patience, in this one specific case, isn't entirely a compliment. Doctors have a name for the condition catching people like Frank: non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Fat building up inside liver cells, unnoticed, in someone who barely drinks or doesn't drink at all. Hepatology research has tracked this condition rising steadily for years, right alongside rates of diabetes and obesity, which tells you plainly what's actually driving it. It's now one of the most common liver conditions doctors see in adults over 60. A real share of the people who have it have absolutely no idea. Testing for it is far less complicated than most people expect. A standard blood panel checks 2 liver enzymes, ALT and AST, and flags them if they're running high. If those come back elevated, the usual next step is a simple ultrasound, the same painless kind used to look at a gallbladder, just aimed at the liver instead. Some offices now use a newer scan called a fibroscan. It measures stiffness in the liver tissue directly and gives a clearer read on how much scarring, if any, has actually started. No needles anywhere near the organ itself, no hospital stay for either test. Frank had his answer within a week of that first blood draw. Your liver does more unseen work than almost any organ in your body. It filters everything your blood carries, medications included. It manufactures the proteins that let your blood clot properly. It stores energy for the moments your body needs it fast. It breaks down anything your body no longer needs, including alcohol, but including a long list of other things too, medications and supplements chief among them. Ask most people what their liver actually does day to day, and they'll struggle past the word filter. It's doing far more than that, constantly, without a single request for recognition. When it's overloaded, it doesn't shut any of that down all at once. It just gets slower and less efficient at all of it, gradually, for years, before anyone notices. Before we get into the 7, answer this honestly for yourself. How many bottles of ibuprofen or acetaminophen have passed through your medicine cabinet this year alone? Not a guess, rounded down to sound better. An honest count, the way you'd actually count them if someone lined every bottle up on your kitchen counter right now. Keep that number in mind. It matters more than you'd guess, and I'll explain exactly why in a moment. Let's get into it. 7 habits, and I'm not ranking them by severity tonight because that's not really how this works. Each one on its own might do very little. Together, in the same person, stacked over years without anyone tallying them up, they add up fast. 1. Regular use of acetaminophen at or above the recommended dose, especially combined with other medications that carry it too, without you realizing. Plenty of cold medicines, sleep aids, and prescription painkillers already have acetaminophen built in. Take your usual dose on top of one of those without realizing it, and you can cross into liver-stressing territory without ever intending to. Check the label. If it lists acetaminophen or the abbreviation APAP, count it toward your daily total, the same way you'd count a separate pill. 2. A diet heavy in added sugar, particularly the liquid kind. Soda, sweetened tea, fruit drinks. Your liver converts excess sugar into fat, and a meaningful share of that fat gets stored right there, inside the organ itself. This is the single biggest driver behind fatty liver disease in people who don't drink. It's also the one people most often miss because they're watching their alcohol, watching their fried food, and never once glancing at the glass in their other hand. 3. Certain herbal and natural supplements marketed as safe simply because they aren't pharmaceuticals. Kava, high-dose green tea extract, certain weight loss blends. Some of the most liver-damaging substances I've seen in my own patients came from the supplement aisle, not the pharmacy counter. People assume natural automatically means harmless. Supplements aren't regulated the same way prescription drugs are, which means the dose on the label isn't always reliably the dose actually inside the bottle. 4. Undiagnosed insulin resistance or prediabetes. Your liver and your blood sugar are far more connected than most people realize. When your body stops responding well to insulin, your liver often starts storing fat as a direct result, frequently years before a diabetes diagnosis ever gets made. This is precisely why a fatty liver finding sometimes ends up being the first real clue that blood sugar trouble is already underway, not the other way around. 5. A mostly sedentary daily routine. Movement helps your liver process fat efficiently. Long stretches without it, day after day, let that fat build up instead. You don't need an intense workout for this one. Even a brisk daily walk measurably changes how your liver handles fat over time. 6. Even moderate, purely social drinking. A couple glasses of wine at dinner, nothing anyone would ever call a problem on its own. Stack it on top of 2 or 3 of the other items on this list, and it matters more. It doesn't take heavy drinking to tip an already strained liver further. A glass or two a few nights a week can matter far more than people assume once other risk factors are already present. This isn't about drinking being inherently dangerous on its own. It's about what it does to a liver that's already carrying extra weight from everything else on this list. 7. Rapid weight loss from crash dieting. This one surprises almost everyone. Losing weight too quickly can actually flood your liver with fat being released from other parts of your body faster than it can process it. Slow, steady weight loss is protective. Fast weight loss can briefly make things worse before they get better. A pound or 2 a week, not 10 pounds in 10 days, is what actually protects the organ through the process. Here's a number worth sitting with for a second. Look back over those 7 and count how many genuinely apply to you. Most of my patients land on at least 2 or 3 without ever having connected them to their liver at all. A few situations stack these up faster than people expect. Recovering from a hip or knee surgery on daily pain medication for weeks at a stretch, moving less than usual while it heals, the months after a spouse passes. Cooking for one turns into more prepackaged meals and more soda than either of you would have kept in the house before. A well-meaning gift of supplements from a grandchild, taken faithfully every morning because it feels like the healthy thing to do. Refusing a gift like that feels almost rude, a long, boring winter that turns an occasional evening on the couch into most of them. None of these situations look dangerous from the outside. That's exactly the point. Before that, it's worth understanding why age changes this picture specifically. Your liver actually shrinks somewhat as you get older, and blood flow through it slows down too. That means it has less spare capacity to absorb the kind of stress these 7 habits create than it did at 40. The same daily ibuprofen that barely registered decades ago carries more weight on a liver that's already working with a smaller margin. Medications also clear more slowly from an older liver in general. That's part of why doses that were once perfectly fine can gradually become too much over the years without a single change in how much you're actually taking. Now, the liver stays quiet for so long that the silence itself is really the whole danger here. It's worth knowing the handful of signs that do eventually show up once real strain has already set in. Ongoing fatigue that doesn't match your day, the kind that a full night's sleep doesn't touch, that's still sitting there heavy the moment you wake up. A dull ache or fullness under your right ribs, easy to mistake for a pulled muscle, tight clothing, or simple indigestion after a big meal. Unexplained weight changes in either direction, gaining or losing, without any change to how you're actually eating. Skin that itches for no clear reason, no rash, no obvious cause. Sometimes worse at night when you're finally still. Bruising more easily than you used to, from ordinary bumps against a table or a door frame that never used to leave a mark at all. Swelling in the ankles or the abdomen that doesn't have an obvious cause, that doesn't go down overnight the way ordinary swelling usually does. In more advanced cases, a yellow tint to the skin or the whites of the eyes, the kind a family member usually notices before you do yourself. None of these confirm anything on their own, and I don't want you diagnosing yourself off a list on a screen. Together, especially alongside several items from that list of 7, they're worth a direct conversation with your doctor, not a guess you quietly sit on for another 6 months. Stay with me through the rest of this. Frank's story doesn't end at that lab result, and how it actually turned out is the entire reason tonight matters. Go ahead and subscribe now, while his numbers are still fresh in your mind, because the next part is exactly what most people never expect to hear. Frank's doctor ordered an ultrasound within the week. It confirmed fatty liver disease, moderate, not yet at the stage of real scarring. Frank sat there running through his own habits out loud, almost item by item, the daily ibuprofen for his knee, taken most mornings without a second thought. The diet soda he drank instead of regular soda, assuming that made it the healthier choice. A green tea supplement his daughter had given him for his birthday, the kind promising a metabolism boost. A walk most mornings, but otherwise a lot of sitting, evenings spent in his recliner in front of the television. None of it involved alcohol. All of it, stacked together, had been asking his liver to do more than it could comfortably keep up with, for longer than he'd ever have guessed. His doctor didn't put him on any new medication that day. Instead, they went through the list together, one habit at a time, out loud, the way nobody ever had before. The ibuprofen got swapped for a topical option for his knee, used only when he genuinely needed it, not out of routine. The diet soda got replaced with sparkling water, more out of stubbornness than enthusiasm at first. The green tea supplement went straight into the trash, along with 2 others his daughter had never mentioned to him were even a concern. He started walking a little further most mornings, mostly to have something to do with his hands instead of reaching for a snack. 6 months later, his repeat blood work came back close to normal. Not perfect, but close enough that his doctor used the word reversing out loud, a word Frank hadn't expected to hear attached to anything involving the word liver. He still checks labels now, out of habit, on everything that comes through his kitchen. His daughter asked him recently, half joking, whether he'd become a different person. He told her he'd just finally started paying attention to an organ that had been silently covering for him his entire adult life. A quick, honest note here, for accuracy's sake. Frank is 66, and the shape of his story is drawn directly from real cases. The lab result, the disbelief, the unremarkable stack of habits nobody had ever added up out loud. He isn't one single patient from my own practice, though. He's built from several people whose charts have crossed my desk, because I'd never want a story this specific attached to someone real without their say. I want to be direct about something before we go further. I'm not telling you to panic over one ibuprofen tablet or one can of soda. Your liver is genuinely resilient, and it's built to handle real, ordinary stress. What actually matters is the pattern. Several of these habits, running for years without anything ever pushing back on them. An occasional soda on a hot afternoon is not the same thing as a soda habit that's run unnoticed for a decade. Your liver knows the difference, even if you've never thought about it that way. It's worth naming who tends to be at higher risk here. Anyone carrying extra weight, particularly around the midsection where the fat sits closer to the liver itself. Anyone with type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, even if it's well managed on paper. Anyone on long-term daily pain medication for arthritis or chronic pain, which describes a large share of people over 60. Anyone with high cholesterol or high blood pressure, since the same metabolic pattern tends to affect all three together. Anyone taking multiple prescriptions at once, simply because more medications generally means more work for the same liver to filter through. Family history plays a real role too, the same way it clearly did for Frank, even though his own path there looked nothing like his father's. If you have a parent or spouse you're privately concerned about, the useful move isn't a vague check-in. Ask them directly what's actually in their medicine cabinet and how often they reach for it. That single question uncovers more real risk than almost anything else you could ask. Offer to sit down with them and read every label together, out loud at the kitchen table. Most people have never actually done that, not once, for the medications and supplements they've relied on for years without a second glance. If your own recent blood work mentioned elevated liver enzymes, even just slightly, don't file it away as a minor footnote. Ask your doctor specifically what that number means for you. Ask whether an ultrasound is worth doing, so someone actually looks at the organ itself, not just the number on a page. And if you haven't had a liver panel run in the last year or two, you don't need to wait for a symptom to ask for one. This is exactly the kind of test that finds trouble precisely because nothing feels wrong yet. Waiting for a symptom defeats the entire purpose of checking in the first place. It's a few extra dollars added to a blood draw you're already having done. It's not a separate appointment, not a separate needle, just one more box checked on a form you're filling out anyway. I also want you to hear the good news plainly, because there's real good news here. Unlike a lot of organ damage, early fatty liver disease is genuinely reversible. The liver regenerates. Cut back on the sugar. Get real movement into your week. Clean up unnecessary supplements and medications. A liver caught early can measurably improve within months, not years. It matters to know where the real line sits, though, because not every stage carries the same odds. Simple fatty buildup, the stage Frank was caught at, is the reversible one. Left alone for years, in a smaller number of people, it can progress towards scarring, what doctors call fibrosis. Eventually, it can progress towards cirrhosis, which isn't reversible the same way his father's wasn't. The entire point of catching this early is staying comfortably on the reversible side of that line. It beats finding out the hard way, years from now, which side you'd slowly drifted toward. Here's what to actually carry out of tonight. 4 specific moves, worth doing this week, not filed away for someday. First, go check your own medicine cabinet this week. Tonight, if you're near it right now, read the actual ingredient labels on everything you take regularly and watch for acetaminophen hiding inside more than one product at once. Write down the total milligrams if you're taking more than one source in the same day and bring that number with you to your next appointment. Second, swap out liquid sugar first, before anything else on this list. It's the single easiest change with the biggest real impact on your liver specifically, and it doesn't require an overhaul of everything you eat. Water, unsweetened tea, or plain sparkling water in place of soda, even just most days of the week, adds up faster than people expect. You don't have to swear it off entirely to see the difference. Third, treat every supplement bottle in your house the same way you'd treat a prescription. Bring the full list to your next appointment and ask your doctor to actually look at it, rather than assuming natural means automatically safe. Bring the actual bottles if you have to, every one of them, even the ones you've taken so long you've stopped thinking of them as anything worth mentioning. Don't rely on memory for names you half remember off a label. Fourth, if your last physical didn't include a liver panel, ask for one at your next visit, by name, using those exact words if you have to. It's a simple blood draw, and it's the single clearest window into how your liver is actually doing. If it's already been more than a year since your last one, that alone is reason enough to ask. It doesn't matter whether anything about you feels different right now. One more thing before I let you go. A fair number of you are on a cholesterol medication called a statin. Statins are processed directly through the liver. That's exactly why your doctor checks liver enzymes regularly while you're on one, and it's exactly the connection tonight's video sets up. I'm covering that whole relationship properly next time. The real risks worth knowing, and the muscle aches that come with it, easy to miss at first. It deserves its own full conversation, not a rushed mention here at the end. Take care of that organ this week. It's been quietly taking care of you for longer than you've probably ever stopped to consider. So tell me honestly in the comments, before tonight, would you have connected any of these 7 habits to your liver at all? Or does this explain a lab result you were handed once, quickly, and never fully understood? Maybe it's the acetaminophen sitting in 3 different bottles in your own cabinet right now, or a supplement someone well-meaning gave you as a gift, still sitting half full on the counter. I read every comment. Frank's numbers are exactly why the next person scrolling past might finally ask their own doctor the right question, instead of letting a strange result slide by unexamined. I'm Dr. Walter Hale, nearly 4 decades in this profession. If there's one organ that's taught me not to trust how someone feels as proof of how they're doing, it's the liver. It works in near total silence, right up until it doesn't. Frank never drank the way his father did, and it caught him anyway, through a stack of ordinary habits nobody had ever added up for him. He wasn't careless. He simply never had a reason to connect any single one of those habits to an organ that never once complained. That's really the whole lesson sitting underneath tonight's 7. Your liver isn't going to send you a warning shot the way a sprained ankle or a bad headache would. It just keeps working, quietly, for as long as it possibly can, and it doesn't ask for credit along the way. Add yours up tonight, honestly, while it still costs you nothing but a few minutes to do it.